Hello everyone. So welcome to the second NEET work session on periodic classification of elements. Already in first work session we have covered about 20 questions from all over the chapter, and here again we look at another 20 set of questions. Maybe those who are looking at this video, right, you can also take a look at the previous work session so that you will be able to have some any relevant models of questions that we discussed there, right. You will be able to pick up the ideas, and also for each and every chapter, right, we have the past year NEET questions, that also those videos also you can check. So we'll have the past year videos for the periodic classification of elements. Maybe in the link below the description you will see the links of those past year questions, etc. If not, you can separately search in our playlist also. Okay, so we'll start with the first question. So this is the question on the IUPAC naming of the elements. IUPAC name of the element having atomic number 108. So how the IUPAC names will be given? So we have the digits, the corresponding name, and what is the abbreviation. So if you look at 108, right? So 1, here we have to give the IUPAC full name, not the symbol. Okay, so we'll just do both because it will be like a quick revision type. So 108, right? So 1 will be what? So we have to remember this table. So only when we remember the table we can answer these kind of questions. So 1 will be what? Un. Okay, so un. Then 0. So 0 will be what? Nil. So un nil. Then 8. 8 means what? Oct. So unnil oct. In the end we have to keep IUM. So for any name, right, IUPAC name, we have to end it with IUM. So what is the name for this? Unnil octium. So the correct answer is option 1. If you want to give the symbol for this, right, the symbol will be what? So un means what? The symbol is U. I mean 1. 0 means symbol is what? N. And 8 means what? Symbol is O. So this will be the symbol. So this is the full name, and this will be the symbol. So name will be unnil octium, and symbol will be what? UNO. So this question, I think the same similar model of question we have done it in the work session 1 also. This is an important area. Okay, next we have the prediction question. Look at this. The electronic configuration of element is 1s2 2s2 2p6 3s2 3p3. So what is this element? This is an element that will belong to the third period. Okay, so if you count what is the total number of electrons, right? What is it? 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 6 is 10, 10 plus 2 12, totally 15. So if you look at where is it? It is in the third period. So we will try to understand the position of the elements by looking at the corresponding period end elements, the 18th group elements, right? Because we will be able to derive a lot of information when we look at the corresponding inert gas element. So helium, that comes in the first period, then neon. Okay, so then comes argon. So argon comes in the third period. Okay, so here what is the atomic number? The total number of electrons is what? We can see it is what? 15. So this element is what? What is the element with atomic number 15? It is phosphorus. So we'll have a phosphorus in the 15th group. So where does phosphorus come? Phosphorus comes in the 15th group, right? Nitrogen, phosphorus. Okay, so nitrogen will be here, and then phosphorus. Okay, so then after phosphorus it will be sulfur, then there will be chlorine. Okay, so then comes the argon. Below argon, what is it? So this is the third period. Below argon there will be krypton, then there will be xenon, and there will be radon. Okay, so if you look at what is the atomic number of helium? 2, neon 10, argon 18. Okay, then krypton it will be 36, then xenon it is 54, then radon it is 86. So if you look at the number of elements in each period, right, that will be the difference between the previous period inert gas element and the subsequent period inert gas element. Like if you see what is the difference here? 8. 8 electrons, right? Between helium and neon, what is it? 8 electrons. Means in that second period, what is the number of elements that will be there? It will be 8. Okay. Again, if you see the difference here, what is it? Again, 8. Means what? When we move from second period to third period, so third period also will have how many? It will be having 8 elements. So the second period will have 8 elements, third period also will have 8 elements. Then the fourth period, right? You see the gap here, it is 18. So fourth period will have 18 electrons. So fourth period will be having 18 electrons. And fifth period also will have 18 electrons. Fifth period also will have 18 elements. And sixth period, which is the longest period, will have 32 elements. So the sixth period is the period where we'll have the maximum number of elements. Okay, so in fact, why the 32 comes, the 4F series also, technically we will be putting it under the sixth period, but we'll give it a position at the below of the table, but technically we will be counting it under the sixth period itself. Okay, now let us come back to the question. What is the question? What is the atomic number of the element which is just below the above element? So below phosphorus, right? What is this element? If you understand the table a little bit, what comes below phosphorus? Nitrogen, phosphorus, then it will be arsenic. Okay, so they are essentially asking what is the atomic number of the arsenic. So how we can get that? In that respective period, see what is the respective period? Phosphorus, what is it? Argon. Argon to krypton, right? What is the difference? It is 18. Means phosphorus to arsenic also it will be how much? It will be 18. The difference is going to be what? 18. So phosphorus is atomic number is 15 plus if we add 18, so how much it is going to be? It is going to be 33. So the corresponding inert gas element of whatever period, the difference between the inert gas element of the chosen period and any subsequent periods, right? Whatever is the difference between the inert gas atomic numbers, for any of the corresponding period elements you take, the difference is going to be same. Similarly, if you look at it, right, chlorine. So chlorine, what is the atomic number? It is 17. Okay, so next below chlorine comes bromine. Okay, so bromine will be what? 17 plus 18. It is going to be, what is the atomic number of bromine? It will be 35. Okay, you can see krypton will be what? 36. So that is how we'll answer these kind of questions. What is it? It will be 33. So the element that will come below phosphorus is arsenic with atomic number 33. So how are we answering these questions? By looking at the difference in the atomic numbers of the inert gas elements. So it is always good, because we have seen in some of the previous questions also, right, how remembering the inert gas atomic numbers is going to be useful for us. So helium atomic number 2, then neon atomic number 10, argon 18, krypton 36, then xenon 54, radon 86. So the first period is the the smallest period, so to say, 2 elements just. Then second and third periods we'll generally call them as the small periods or short periods. First period we'll call it as shortest, second and third we'll call it as short periods. Both will have 8 elements. The fourth and fifth we'll call them as long periods. Okay, sixth period is the longest, seventh will be the incomplete, because we have still elements, some of them either they are discovered and the existence is still under question, or some elements to be discovered. That is why we call it as the incomplete period, the seventh one. Okay, so this is about the kind of questions. So if you have a question like this, how do we approach? Next we have another question based on the periodic table arrangement. Which of the following set of atomic numbers represents only representative elements? So what are representative elements? So we have the S block elements, the S block elements and the P block except 18th. Okay, so why 18th group, the inert gas elements, we don't consider them under the representative elements. Means what? Technically this is the first and second groups, and 13th to 17th. Okay, so this combined set is what we call as the representative elements. Okay, now how we can answer this question? We have to go through each and every option. That is it. There is no other way, because they're asking us which of the following set of atomic numbers represent only representative elements, means we have to work it out. So we'll have to take option 1. Option 1, we have to see what are these atomic numbers. 55. So one method is, if you look at the atomic numbers of the inert gases, this might be handy. So atomic numbers of the inert gas are what? Helium is 2, then neon is 10, then argon is 18, then krypton is 36, then xenon is 54, then radon is 86. Okay, and we can even try and look at what is the corresponding so in the same, so here we'll have lithium, here we'll have sodium, here we will be having potassium. Okay, then comes rubidium, then comes cesium, then below that is the francium. Okay, so this is about the corresponding so here lithium will have 3, sodium will have 11, potassium will have 19. So basically, you know, the previous period inert gas plus 1, rubidium it is 37, then cesium it is 55, then francium it is 87. Whatever the previous period inert gas element plus 1 will come. Okay, now this is broadly what we have in terms of the atomic numbers of the inert gas elements and the first group elements. Okay, now based on that we will try to answer these questions. So look at this 55. So we are going with we are checking in the first option of 55. 55 means what? This is nothing but our cesium. So that is the first group element, that is the representative element. 12. So where is 12? 12 actually is magnesium, that will come after. So 12 will come after sodium, that is also in the second period, right? Means it is the representative element. What about 48? Where does 48 come? So it will be coming between 37 to 54, right? So 37 is rubidium. Okay, after rubidium, in the second group, right, we'll have strontium, that will be 38. Now after strontium, then, you know, we'll have yttrium, zirconium. So all this is the D block. All this is what? The D block. Okay, so if we say 48, means this will be an element that will be in the D block. Why? Because the xenon is 54, so the 53 will be iodine. Okay, so 52, 51, 50, so 53 will be what? This is the 17th, 52 will be 16th, 51 will be what? 15th group, 50 will be 14th group, and 13th group is what? 49. Okay, so 48 means what? That will be a D block element. So that is not a representative element. 53 is representative because 53 is what? 17th group, but 48 is not. It is not a representative element, it is an element that is in the D block. So by this our first option, not all of them are representative elements, so that is gone. So that is not going to be having all of them as representative elements. Now what we have to do? We have to again go and start checking the other options. Okay, so what we will do now? We will go to option 2. So this question, you know, we can only get the answer when we check up each of them one by one. Okay, so now look at option 2. 13. 13 means what? See, sodium, then, you know, magnesium, then here aluminum. Okay, so aluminum is what? 13. So that is a representative element. 23. So potassium is 19, then calcium is 20. So 23 means so 21 is scandium, 22 is titanium, 23 is vanadium. So scandium is 21, titanium is 22, vanadium. So this is what? D block element. So option 2 is also out of scope. Why? Because this is not having all the elements as representative elements. Okay, so now we'll have to come to option 3. So option 3, look at the atomic numbers given to us. What are the atomic numbers given to us? First they are giving, what is it? First they are giving what? Atomic number 3. What is it? It is nothing but our lithium. So lithium is first group element, so this is a representative element. 33. What about 33? See, if you look at 36, what is 36? This is krypton, right? Before that we'll have 35 bromine. Okay, so 34. Before that comes 33. Okay, so these elements, right? So what are these elements? These elements are the elements that will be in, so 35 will be in the 17th, 34 will be, so these analysis, right, we can answer even if we do not know what are the names of the respective elements. Okay, so 34 will be belonging to the 16th and 33 will be belonging to the 15th. Okay, so in fact, if you remember, right, we already did one question in the previous, I think the second question is what we have. So 33, right, what is it? It is nothing but arsenic. That will come in the 15th group below phosphorus. But we can answer these questions without even knowing what is the element. So this is in the 15th group, right? So means what? This is also representative element. What about 53? See, xenon is 54. The one that will come below is what? Before is what? The one that will come before is the 17th group element. That is also representative. What about 87? 87 is nothing but our francium. That is first group. So we'll see that, you know, option 3, all of them are what? Representative elements. Now since we are doing a practice session, right, we can even look at option 4 and check why that is not having all the elements as representative elements. So if you look at the first one itself, right, 22. So calcium is 20, scandium is 21, titanium is what? 22. So the first element itself is not a representative element, it is a D block element. So that is why, because we are looking for what? The entire set being representative element. That is the condition we must satisfy. Okay, so the correct answer for this is what? Option 3 is the correct answer. Okay, so now we will go on to the next question. So question number 4, the electronic configuration having maximum difference in the first and second ionization energy values. So we are looking for the maximum difference between the first and second ionization energy values. See, why we are talking about maximum difference between first and second ionization energy values, or when we will get into this kind of situation, when this scenario will come, when after removal of one electron, right, if we are attaining a stable configuration. So after removal of one electron, we are attaining a stable configuration, like, you know, the inert gas configuration. Then the removal of second electron is going to be requiring a lot of energy. So that is when we will have a maximum difference between the first and second ionization energy values. Generally, right, ionization energy values will keep increasing. Like say for example, the first ionization energy value will be less than second, will be less than third. So this is what we will see. Generally, the successive ionization energy values will be increasing. Why? Because first time when we are removing electron, we will remove electron from the neutral atom. Second time we will remove from the monovalent positive ion. Third time we will remove it from divalent positive ion. So the positive charge on that cation will be keep on increasing. So which means removal of the electrons from that will become that much more difficult. Okay, that is the general trend. But where do we see that maximum difference? When after removal of one electron we have achieved a stable inert gas arrangement. If you look at these options, right, option A is what? Look at the arrangement: 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, means outermost shell we have 2 electrons. Okay, look at option 2, 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p1. Outermost shell we have 3 electrons, 2 electrons in the 3s level and 1 electron in the 3p level. Look at option 3, 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p2, means we'll have totally 4 electrons. Look at option 4, 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. Observe this. So which means what? There is only 1 electron in the valence shell. So here there is only 1 electron in the valence shell, which means what? Once you remove the electron, you know what is this element? This element is what? Sodium. So after, what is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1 representing 11 electrons arrangement, right? What is this? This is nothing but sodium. Once you remove the electron, now look at, after removal of one electron, what is the arrangement? The arrangement is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. This is nothing but the arrangement of sodium plus. Now if you want to remove electron, you have to remove electron from outermost orbit. Outermost orbit is currently octet filled, 2s2, 2p6 structure. So it will be very difficult to remove the electron. That is the reason why we see large difference or maximum difference in the first ionization energy value and then second ionization energy value. Okay. So similarly, if there is another question, like say, I think in some of the previous questions also we have talked about it. If we see a maximum difference between the third ionization energy and fourth ionization energy values, what does that mean? It means that after removing 3 electrons, we have achieved the stable octet structure. That is the reason why the removal of fourth electron will be requiring lot of energy from us. Okay. So this is the analysis. So what is the answer for this? It is option 4, because it is having one valence electron. After removal of one valence electron, we are achieving the stable octet in the outermost orbit. So to remove one more electron, right, it is going to be requiring lot of energy from us, because we are disturbing essentially the stable octet structure there. Okay. Next we have another question based on the ionization energy, but this is a quantitative question. The first, second and third ionization energies of aluminum are 578, 1817, 2745. We can see they are increasing. Okay, kilojoule per mole respectively. Calculate the energy required to convert all the atoms of aluminum into aluminum 3 plus. Means what we want to ionize all the aluminum atoms into Al3 plus. Present in 270 milligrams of aluminum vapor. See, what is the quantity of aluminum that is available to us? 270 milligrams. Okay. So if you look at the ionization energies, they are talking in terms of what? Per mole. Here they are giving the aluminum in terms of what? Mass or weight. So let us try to find out what is the number of moles of aluminum atoms in this. So how do you find the number of moles of aluminum atoms? Given mass, which is 270 milligram. Milligram means what? Into 10 power minus 3. Divided by what is the gram atomic mass of aluminum? 27. So 270 milligrams means what? 270 10 power minus 3. We are converting this into grams. Okay, divided by what is the gram atomic mass of aluminum? 27 grams. So here 27 ones, 27 tens. 10 into 10 power minus 3 is what? 10 power minus 2. So the given amount of aluminum is equal to how much in terms of moles? It is equivalent to 10 power minus 2 moles. This is the amount of aluminum in terms of number of moles of atoms. Why are we getting the number of moles of atoms? Because look at the ionization energy values. They are talking in terms of kilojoule per mole. Okay. Now what is our task here? We are trying to convert all the aluminum atoms into Al3 plus. They are giving us the first ionization energy, second ionization energy and third ionization energy. Means what? For the removal of one electron, means aluminum to become Al plus, it requires how much energy? 578 kilojoule per mole. Al plus to become Al2 plus, it requires how much energy? 1817 kilojoule per mole. Al2 plus to become Al3 plus, it requires how much energy? 2745 kilojoule per mole. Okay. Now we want to convert at a time aluminum to aluminum 3 plus. Means what? We have to, what is the total energy requirement? So the overall energy requirement means what? We have to add all of these, right? Which is what? 578 plus 1817 plus 2745. Why are we adding it? Understand, why are we adding it? Because we are trying to at a step convert aluminum into aluminum 3 plus. Means removal of the first electron plus removal of the second electron plus removal of the third electron, total. Okay, so what is the total value? 5140 kilojoule per mole. Okay, so kilojoule per mole means what? If you want to convert 1 mole of aluminum atoms into Al3 plus, total aluminum atoms into Al3 plus, right? For 1 mole, how much energy we are going to require? 5140 kilojoules. For 1 mole we will require this much. But what is the amount that is there in our hand? We don't have 1 mole. What is the amount that is there in our hand? 10 power minus 2 moles, right? So for 10 power minus 2 moles, how much will be? See, for 1 mole 5140 means for 2 moles it will be what? 2 into 5140. 3 moles it will be what? 3 into 5140. Half a mole it will be what? Half into 5140. 10 power minus 2 moles means what? 5140 into 10 power minus 2. So this is the energy requirement. And this is going to be coming in kilojoules. Okay. So 5140 into 10 power minus 2. 10 power minus 2 means what? This is like 1 by 100. Correct 2 decimal places. It will become what? 51.40 kilojoules. Is it clear? So what is our task here that we are doing? We are trying to convert all of this aluminum, which is the 270 milligrams, all of this, right, uh, will be converted into what? All of this will be converted into the Al3 plus. For that, how much is the energy we are going to require? We will be requiring 51.40 kilojoules. Okay. So next, we'll look at question number 6. Look at question number 6. Ica aluminium, Ica silicon are known as. So these are the names that have been given by the Mendeleev. So while he was arranging the elements as per the increasing order of atomic weight, he was able to see that there are some gaps. Okay, and these gaps are for the missing elements or the elements to be discovered. That is the hypothesis that he has made, and he gave the names for these elements, and also he has kept what is the tentative atomic mass of these elements. Okay, that is what he has done. Okay, so what are these elements that they are asking us? They are asking us what is Ica aluminum and what is Ica silicon. Okay, so for that, no, this is a memory based question, so we will have to remember at least some of the prominent missing elements that he has mentioned, and the corresponding elements that were discovered later. So Ica boron, as per the Mendeleev table, the one that will come after boron, so Ica represents 1. Okay, so the corresponding element that is discovered later is found to be scandium. Okay, Ica aluminium is gallium. So they are asking us what Ica aluminium, right? What is Ica aluminium? It is gallium. Then Ica silicon. What is Ica silicon? Ica silicon is germanium. Then we also have, so we got our answer for this question. What is it? Ica aluminum is what? Gallium. Ica silicon is what? Germanium. Then we have Ica manganese. What is Ica manganese? Technetium. Then we have Dwitellurium. So what is Dwitellurium? Polonium. Dwicesium. What is it? Francium. Then Ica tantalum. It is what? Protactinium. So these are the some missing elements that are identified based on the Mendeleev table and the corresponding elements that were discovered later. So if you look at the Mendeleev table theoretical video that we have made, so you would see that some of the missing elements, the gaps he has left in the table, those, I mean, gaps were not all for the elements that were discovered, which means, you know, still there were some gaps that he has left, and the corresponding elements were not discovered because the gaps were left based on the atomic mass, and there is no clear uh, order in terms of how the atomic mass will actually vary. So that is the reason why some of the gaps that he has left, they are still not I mean, you know, completed in that sense. Okay, so this is about the missing elements in the Mendeleev table. So then we have question number 7. Identify the correct order of the size of the following. So what are these? If you look at it, right, so we have argon, which is an neutral atom, and we have cations and we have anions. So where, I mean, you know, where we have the relation between them. So if you look at it, right, so potassium, calcium, okay, so these two will belong to the fourth period. Okay, and then, you know, sulfur, chlorine, argon, they belong to third period. So if you look at the sulfur, what is sulfur atomic number? Sulfur atomic number is what? 16. S2 minus means we are adding 2 electrons, so it will become what? 18. Chlorine atomic number is what? 17. We add 1 electron means it will become totally 18. Argon already 18 electrons. Okay, I think you are able to understand where we are going, right? Potassium atomic number is 19. We removed 1 electron means it will become 18. Okay, so calcium atomic number is 20. We remove 2 electrons means it will become what? 18. So all of them are what? These are isoelectronic species. What are these? These are isoelectronic species. Okay, now isoelectronic species, the radius comparison, right, will depend upon what? The radius comparison for the isoelectronic species will depend upon the nuclear charge. It will depend upon the nuclear charge. Okay, so when the nuclear charge is more, because isoelectronic species, the number of electrons that they will have around the nucleus will be same. The difference will be coming in terms of the nuclear charge. So when the nuclear charge is more, means what? The electrons will come under greater influence of nucleus, means the the outermost orbit will be shrinking inwards. So when the nuclear charge is more, the corresponding isoelectronic species radius will be what? Lesser. So if you look at it, right, when we are exchanging electrons, only the electrons will differ, but the nuclear power will be the nuclear power that is there in the respective atoms. Sulfur, what is the atomic number? 16, right? Means the nuclear power is corresponding to 16 protons. Chlorine 17 protons, argon 18 protons, potassium 19 protons, calcium 20 protons, because nuclear power does not change. The exchange is only in terms of electrons. So what is the conclusion here? When the nuclear charge is more, the radius will be what? Least, which means where the nuclear charge is more, in case of the calcium 2 plus, that is the nuclear power coming from 20 protons, so that is going to have the least radius. So look at it, what is it? Calcium 2 plus will have the least radius, then comes potassium, because potassium, what is the nuclear power? 19 protons. Then comes argon, 18 protons. Then comes Cl minus, 17 protons. Then comes S2 minus, sulfide ion. So what is the correct order here? It is option 1. What is it? Calcium 2 plus less than potassium, plus less than argon, less than Cl minus, less than sulfide ions. So this is the order in terms of the radii. So whenever we have isoelectronic species, right, this is a important model of question, because even in some past year NEET paper also we have got questions like this. So when we have isoelectronic species, how do we compare the radius of isoelectronic species? By looking at the nuclear charge or nuclear power. So when the nuclear charge or nuclear power is more, the corresponding isoelectronic species radius will be less. Next we have another memory based question. So this is a question based on actinoids. So look at the question. The question is, which of the following is not an actinoid? So actinoids are what? These are the 5F series elements. So we need to find which of them is not an actinoid. Generally, right, we may not be able to remember the names of all the actinoids. So when we go to the D and F block elements chapter in plus 2, right, there we will discuss about some mnemonics, easy tricks to remember the names of the 4F elements and 5F elements also. But here we can answer these kind of questions if we remember the atomic number range. So after lanthanum, which has atomic number 57, we have lanthanide starting. Lanthanides will be starting from 58 to 71, cerium to lutetium. Okay. Then after actinium, so which is 89, so we have elements starting from thorium to lawrencium. So thorium is what? 90 to 103. That is the atomic number range. So the 90 to 103 is the atomic number range for the actinoids or the 5F series. What is the question they are asking? Which of the following is not an actinoid? So if you look at it, right, curium, it comes in 90 to 103. Then californium, it comes in 90 to 103. Uranium comes in 90 to 103. Only terbium it will come in which series? It will come in the 4F series. You can see terbium is where? Terbium is here. It is in the 4F series. Okay, so it is the lanthanoid. What is the question they are asking? Which of them is not an actinoid? So what is the answer for this? It is terbium. So the thing that we'll remember in answering these kind of questions is what? The atomic number range of lanthanoids. What is it? 58 to 71. Okay. What is the atomic number range of actinoids? It is 90 to 103. So these are the atomic number ranges of lanthanoids and actinoids. Next we have a question based on the nature of the oxides. Match the following regarding the nature of the oxides. So column 1 we have to match it to column 2. So nowadays if you look at the recent year NEET papers, right, they are preferring to give a lot of these match the type of questions. Why? Because here they can club. It is like not like one question, it is like 2 or 3 clubbed into one. So look at this, we have H2O, we have Na2O, we have ZNO, and we have SO3. So here clearly Na2 is what? It is a sodium oxide, which will be what? The first group oxides are basic in nature. Okay, so B is matched to 1, and SO3, sulfur trioxide, right, it is acidic. So what is it? D is matched to 3. So B is matched to 1, D is matched to 3, and zinc oxide. So what is zinc oxide? Zinc and aluminum, they are amphoteric, means C is matched to 2. And water, which is A, is a neutral oxide. So what is it? It's option 4. So the correct matching is what? A is matched to 4, B is matched to 1, C is matched to 2, D is matched to 3. Check it. What is the correct matching? It is what? A is matched to 4. Then A is matched to 4 here. You can check it. B is matched to 1. You can check it. B is matched to 1. C is matched to 2. And D is matched to 3. So this is the correct matching order in terms of the nature of these oxides. This is in fact a question that has come in the previous year. Maybe if you are checking our previous year NEET videos of periodic classification of elements, you can find this question in that also. Okay, so look at this question. What is the value of electron gain enthalpy of Na plus? They're asking what is the electron gain enthalpy of Na plus if IE1 of sodium. IE1 of sodium means what? First ionization energy of sodium. This is a technical question. So if you look at what is the IE1, what is IE1 represents? First ionization energy means what? When sodium, we are removing one electron to form Na plus. After remove one electron, it will form what? Na plus. So for this, right, the energy exchange. So in thermodynamic chapter, we will call it as enthalpy change. So for this, what is the enthalpy change? 5.1 electron volt. You know, positive value means what? This much amount of energy is being absorbed. Because ionization energy means what? We have to supply. That process will be absorbing that much amount of energy. What is the question they're asking? The electron gain enthalpy of Na plus. So look at what do you mean by electron gain enthalpy of Na plus means to the Na plus you are giving one electron and thereby it will be forming what? Sodium. Thereby it will be forming what? Sodium. So to remove one electron and forming Na plus you are requiring 5.1. If you give electron to Na plus and form sodium backwards, right? I mean what we will observe happening, the same amount of energy will be released. So in thermodynamics we will study about it. Like if you have this is a reaction in one way, so we'll call it as what? Let's say forward. We'll call it as a forward. So when you reverse the process, we will call it as what? The reverse. When you reverse a reaction, right, the heat exchange for the reaction will become negative of original value. Technically speaking means what? If here we are absorbing means in this step what is going to happen? There will be release, isn't it? So the releasing means what? The energy exchange will be shown as negative, means what? This much amount of energy is released. So when the electron is given to Na plus, that is what is the electron gain enthalpy. That is what electron gain enthalpy, right? So electron gain enthalpy means what? The enthalpy, that is enthalpy change that is involved when an electron is given to the Na plus. So if you see, right, it is the reverse of the previous. So if you reverse the equation means what? The heat exchange or enthalpy change will become negative of the original value. This we will study in thermodynamics. So maybe you can just make a note of it. Again in thermodynamics we will study about it. Okay. So the value of electron gain enthalpy, right, for the Na plus will be equal to what? It will be equal to minus 5.1 electron volt. So the first ionization energy of sodium is 5.1 electron volt, means what? To remove one electron from sodium. If you remove electron means what? You will form Na plus, and for that what is the energy exchange involved? It is 5.1. And the electron gain enthalpy of Na plus means what? To Na plus we are adding electron. To Na plus we are adding electron. Okay, so if you look at it, it is the reverse of the previous process. It is nothing but the reverse of the previous process. Okay, so in thermodynamics we will study that when you reverse an equation, the heat exchange or enthalpy change of that particular reaction will become negative of original value. Means here it is 5.1. So here it will be what? For this process it will be what? Minus 5.1. Okay, so the correct answer for this is what? Option 3. Next we look at question number 11. The first ionization enthalpies of sodium, magnesium, aluminum, silicon. So we have to arrange them in that order. First ionization enthalpies. See, where are these elements? They all belong to a period, right? So sodium, magnesium, then aluminum, then silicon. So generally what is the observation when you move from left to right? The ionization enthalpies, right? The ionization enthalpies will increase. That is what we expect. Means what? Sodium will be less than magnesium, will be less than aluminum, will be less than silicon. That is what is the normal expectation. But the case of magnesium, right, it will be having NS2 outer structure. Because of this NS2 outer structure, I mean this anomaly, right, we will see between the second group and either we will call it as a 3A or 13th group. Because 3A or 13th group will have NS2 NP1 structure. So the lone electron from the P subshell can be removed easily in comparison to the removal of electron from NS2. Thereby, the ionization energy of magnesium will be more than that of the aluminum. The ionization energy of magnesium will be more than that of the aluminum. So what is the trend we can say? Sodium less than magnesium, but magnesium will not be less than aluminum. Magnesium will be in fact more than aluminum, which will be of course less than silicon. Okay, so this is the order we have. So what is the correct option for this? The option A, which is sodium is less than magnesium, but magnesium will not be less than aluminum. Magnesium also will be more than aluminum. Okay, and of course that will be less than silicon. This is the anomaly of ionization enthalpy between the second group and 13th group. Remember, we have one more anomaly whenever we are moving in a period, right, between the 15th group and 16th group, because 15th group elements are what? The elements that will have NS2 NP3, 15th group, right, like so, like nitrogen, phosphorus, they will have what? NS2 NP3 structure. Here this NP3 structure is a stable half filled p structure. Okay, so that is the reason why the removal of electron will be relatively difficult. So here also we'll have the anomaly. So generally what is it? Nitrogen, because oxygen will come later, right, we expect that nitrogen is less than oxygen. This is the normal expected. Okay, but in reality what is it going to be? Nitrogen will be more than oxygen because of the half filled stability of nitrogen structure. Okay, so this anomaly will be seen between the 15th group elements and 16th group elements also. The anomaly in terms of the ionization energy trend when we move across a period. Next we have a question that is again based on identifying the position of the elements. So the elements with atomic numbers 35, 53, 85. So if you remember these atomic numbers, at least some of them, right, we will be able to answer it. But anyway, look at it now. So 35, 53 and 85. So to answer these kind of questions, we have been telling that we better remember the inert gas elements atomic number. So helium 2, neon 10, argon 18, then krypton 36, xenon 54, then radon 86. So look at where is 35 coming. 35 is coming just before the krypton. It is nothing but our iodine. Okay, sorry, bromine. Okay, then what is 53? This is iodine. Okay, so the one that will come before xenon. Then the one that will come before radon 85, that is what? Astatine. So we have bromine, iodine and then astatine. So these are all what? These are all the elements that will belong to the halogen or the salt forming group. What is it? Starting from fluorine, then chlorine, then bromine, then iodine, then astatine. Okay, so what are these? These are all halogens. So if you remember the inert gas elements atomic number, these kind of questions, at least finding the position of element in the table and all that, we can answer with relative ease. Okay, so what is the answer for this question? It is the halogens. Next we have a question based on the electronic configuration. Based on electronic configuration, here we have to find out about the increasing tendency to gain electron. So first we look at it now. The electronic configuration of 4 elements A, B, C, D are given. What are the configurations? A is what? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. What is this? A is nothing but it is an inert gas element. Of course we know what is A. What is A basically? It is nothing but neon. Then B. What is B? 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. So B, I mean we know what is B also, but generally even if we are not looking at what is the actual B element. What is B element here? 1s2, 2s2, 2p4 means what is this? This is oxygen. But here what we can tell about B is B has 6 valence electrons. What is C? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. So C has 1 valence electron. Then what about D? 1s2, 2s2, 2p5. What is this? This is fluorine. Okay, so B has 7 valence electrons. Now look at the question. Which of the following is the correct order of increasing tendency to gain electron? So we have to put them in the increasing tendency to gain electron. Okay, see, the least of the tendencies will be for the inert gases, because inert gases, they are not going to be gaining any electron because they are already in the stable arrangement. Okay, they would have no tendency to gain any more electrons, which means what? The least of the tendencies will be shown by A. And the highest tendency to gain, because look at it, D is having 7 valence electrons, it just has to gain one more electron. Then before that it will be the B, because B is having what? 6 valence electrons, it has to gain 2 more. And before that will be of course our C. So what is the tendency order? A will have the least because it is the inert gas, it will have no tendency to gain any electrons. D will be highest because it is having 7 electrons. Before D it will be B because B is having 6 electrons, it will also have tendency to gain. And before B it will be of course C. The least is going to be the inert gas. So what is the correct answer for this? It is option A. Inert gas will have the least tendency to gain electron. And halogen, the 7 electrons is what? This is the halogen. We know what is the element also. This is the fluorine. And what is this element? B is what? Oxygen. And what is C? Basically it is sodium. Okay, because these are all the atomic numbers that we keep using quite often, right? We will be able to remember these elements also that way. But here, you know, we are answering the question by looking at what is the valence electrons, because valence electrons will give us an insight into what is the tendency of that particular element to gain electrons. Next we have a question based on the lanthanide contraction. So lanthanide contraction, we'll talk more about it when we go to the D and F block elements, but here, you know, it is good to understand what will be the effects of lanthanide contraction. Here we look at the effect in terms of mostly the radius similarities. Okay, so we'll go through the question because the question itself is asked on that. The lanthanide contraction is responsible for the fact. So if you look at the lanthanides, right, where they will come here after lanthanum. Okay, so after lanthanum, right, before, so lanthanum will have atomic number 57, and from 58 to 71, so we have cerium to lutetium. Okay, so that is the lanthanides, 58 to 71. Then 72 is hafnium. So lanthanoids, when we are filling electrons, so where we will be filling electrons? We will have the nucleus. Okay, and we will fill electrons into the 4f subshell. Okay, so while the outermost orbit is actually the 6th, outermost orbit, 6th orbit. The poor shielding effect of the 4f subshell electrons, right, will mean that the 6th orbit will come under higher or greater nuclear influence. As a result of it, what happens, you know, the lanthanide contraction, that is what we call it as this phenomena. When we move across the lanthanide series, we will see that both the atomic radius as well as ionic radius will be decreasing. Okay, nuclear power is increasing, right, because atomic number is increasing. We are adding electrons into 4f subshell, but they are poor shielding. 4f subshell electrons are what? They are poor shielding. So as a result, what we will observe is the outermost electrons will come under more influence of nucleus, so the size will shrink so much that when we compare the this is the zirconium to cadmium, right, this is the 4d series, and hafnium to mercury, this is the 5d series. So we'll also call them as the second transition and third transition, because scandium to zinc is the first transition. Scandium to zinc is called as what? First transition or 3D. So the 4D and 5D, because of the lanthanide contraction, each and every element of that 4D series will have almost comparable radius to the 5D series element. Generally, as you go down the group, what we expect, we're adding more shell means the radius must increase significantly. But here zirconium and hafnium, right, they'll have almost similar radius. Niobium and tantalum, they will also have almost similar radius. Okay, molybdenum and tungsten, they will also have almost similar radius. So the corresponding elements of the 4D series and 5D series, they will end up having similar radius because of the lanthanide contraction. Okay, so the lanthanide contraction, the poor shielding effect of the 4f subshell electrons is so significant that even the extra shell added, that is also being pulled almost closer. So if you look at the radius trend, right, radius of 3D will be less than radius of 4D series elements, but it will be almost comparable to the radius of 5D series elements. This is what we have as an observation. So if you look at the options, right, what is the correct one? Zirconium and hafnium, they will be having almost same size or same radius. This is happening because of the lanthanide contraction. Next we have a question again based on the energy interactions. The formation of O2 minus starting from O is endothermic by 603 kilojoules. Means what? If you are forming from oxygen, we are forming O2 minus. Obviously, we will be giving 2 electrons. So for this, what is the overall energy change? 603 kilojoules. We can see this is positive. Means what? Energy is overall, net energy is actually absorbed. Okay. If the electron affinity of oxygen is minus 141. So we're talking about electron affinity means what? For oxygen, the gaseous, here also this is what gaseous. Okay, so if we take oxygen gaseous atom and give one electron, it will form O minus gaseous ion. Okay, the gaseous O minus ion, when you form it, here what is the energy change involved? It is minus 141, which means what? This much amount of energy is actually negative, represents energy is released. Okay, they're asking what is the second electron affinity of oxygen. Second electron affinity means what? When you take O minus gaseous and give another electron, it will form what? O2 minus gaseous ion. For this they are asking what is the energy exchange. Let us call it as X. So this is again a question which is related to the thermodynamics. We can also answer the question by using our common understanding of the energy changes. If you look at it, right, maybe I'll just redraw the scheme again so that we will be able to understand. So if you look at it, the electron affinity of oxygen means what? The energy exchange involved when we are giving an electron to gaseous oxygen atom. So thereby it will be forming what? It will be forming O minus. For this, what is the energy exchange involved? They are giving minus 141. Okay, and they are also giving what is the endothermic step. So if you are forming O2 minus ion, for that what is the energy exchange involved? It's the endothermic, means 603 plus kilojoules. So the electron affinity of oxygen is minus 141. Forming O2 minus from oxygen, what is the energy exchange for this? 603. We need to find what is the second electron affinity, means the O minus ion, when we give another electron, it will form O2 minus. This step we have to find what is the energy exchange. Let us call it as X. So look at this now. When we add this, let us call it as equation 1, equation 2. So in thermodynamics, right, we will be calling it as Hess law. What do we call it as? Hess law. Okay, but here just look at it. When we add these two steps, first step and second step, add both of them, what we are going to have here? O minus is getting cancelled. You can just look at it like a overall reaction. So what are we having? O gaseous plus 2 electrons gives rise to O2 minus gaseous ions. For the overall process, right, what is the energy? It will be x minus 141, because here it is x, here it is minus 141. Totally what is it? X minus 141. But already for this we got the energy exchange rate. What is it? 603. Means x minus 141 is equal to 603. From here x value will be equal to what? We take the minus 141 to the right side. It will be what? 603 plus 141. How much it is? It will be what? 744 plus it is going to be. So what is it? 744. So the second electron affinity rate is going to be highly endothermic. See, first time when you are adding electron to oxygen, energy is released. Second time when you are trying to add electron, right, you have to supply large amount of energy. How much amount of energy you have to supply? Plus indicates what we have to supply, that much amount of energy. We have to supply 744 kilojoules per mole. And that is the reason why the overall formation of oxide ion, starting from oxygen atoms, if you look at the overall formation of oxide ions, right, the overall formation of oxide ions is net, what is it? It is endothermic. Means overall it is requiring some amount of energy to be supplied. It is not exothermic. It is not releasing energy. We have to supply energy, because it will be what? Net, the total process will be still endothermic. Okay, so the correct answer for this is option A. So these kind of questions, right, we will be able to even answer with a little bit more confidence. I mean, I'm talking about the general idea of answering these questions once we cover the thermodynamics Hess law. Next we have another question which is based on the ionization enthalpy only, but this is not about the quantitative estimation, but this is in terms of the qualitative analysis. Look at this. The atomic numbers of vanadium, chromium, manganese, iron. Thankfully they are giving these. What are these atomic numbers? 23. So which means what? Vanadium it is what? 23. Then chromium it is 24. Of course some of them we even remember. Then manganese it is what? 25. Then iron it is 26. Okay, so these are the values. Which one of these may be expected to have highest second ionization enthalpy? So which of them is expected to have second ionization enthalpy to be highest? Second, see, IE2 means what? IE2 basically means what? The ionization energy involved in the removal of second electron. IE2 means what? The ionization energy involved in the removal of the second electron. So first what we will do is look at it now. We will start writing down the electronic configuration of each of these. First we will write down the normal electronic configuration. Then we will see what will be the electronic configuration once we remove one electron. Okay, so accordingly we will be able to answer this question. So this question can be only answered by writing down the electronic configuration. So look at this normal vanadium. What is it? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s2, 3d. This is what? 3d3. So this is vanadium. So totally count it. This is what? 10 plus 10, 20 plus 3, 23. Okay. Then you know what we have. Then comes chromium. Abnormal. 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6. Then 4s1, 3d5. Abnormal chromium. Then manganese. What is manganese? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s2, 3d5. That is manganese. What about the iron? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s2, 3d6. That is iron. Okay. Now we are supposed to find where we will be having highest second ionization enthalpy. See, think about it. So first ionization enthalpy means what? We are removing the first electron. So let us just focus on it. No, I'll use a different color marker so that it will be able to give us a clear picture. So when we are removing first electron, for the vanadium, where we will remove from? 4s level. For chromium also 4s level. For manganese, because that is the outermost orbit. Manganese also 4s level. Iron also 4s level. Now vanadium, how many electrons are there in the 4s level? 2 electrons. Means when we remove one electron in vanadium plus, if you look at it, right, after removal of one electron, we will still have 4s1 structure in vanadium plus. Okay, Whereas in chromium plus, look at this, no, chromium plus, chromium is 4s1. We remove one electron means this 4s level itself will not be having any more electrons. Chromium plus will be having, what is the outermost structure? 3s2, 3p6, 3d5. Now we will have to remove electron from 3d5. Okay. Whereas manganese, look at manganese plus. What is manganese plus going to be? 4s2 means after removing one electron we will still have 4s1 structure. Same is the case with iron. Iron plus means what? Fe plus also, after removal of one electron we will still have 4s1 structure. Means, you know, in second ionization energy means in case of vanadium we are removing the other electron from 4s1. In case of manganese we will be removing the other electron from 4s1. In case of iron we will remove the other electron from 4s1. But in case of chromium we don't have other electron from 4s. We will have to remove the electron from the 3d5. What is 3d5? Half filled d structure. So half filled d structure, okay, is the reason why the chromium itself is having abnormal electronic arrangement, right? Means what? This is a stable arrangement. Half filled d structure is stable. If you want to remove electron from the stable arrangement, it is going to be requiring lot of energy, isn't it? So the correct answer for this is what? Chromium. So because chromium, after removal of one electron it will come to 3d5. Now the second electron means we have to remove from the 3d5 structure. Means, you know, we are trying to move chromium out of stable half filled d structure, and that is going to be requiring lot of energy. That is the reason why we see that the second ionization enthalpy value of that chromium is going to be substantially higher than the other elements. So whenever they have questions like this, right, especially in the D block, when they have questions like why this ionization energy value is very high and things like that, always keep an eye on, I mean this is like the usual explanation, always keep an eye on, is it reaching a stable arrangement, things like that. Stable arrangement means what? Here we are talking about the half filled D structure or fully filled D structure. These are the stable arrangement. When we try to disturb it, right, we have to supply a lot of energy, then only we can move it away from the stable arrangement. Okay. Next we have a straight memory based question. So this is on the metalloids. Which of the following is a metalloid? So we have elements that will be sitting in the P block which will have properties intermediate between the metals and non-metals. So what are these metalloids if you look at it? So we have the position is also demarcating between the metals. So left side will have metals, right side will have non-metals. Okay, what are these? Boron, silicon, germanium, then we have arsenic, then we have antimony, then tellurium, and then astatine. So in the given options, right, so phosphorus, nitrogen, these are what? Non-metals. Bismuth is a metal. Okay, what is the metalloid here? It is the antimony. What is the element symbol for the antimony? It is what? Sb. Next we have trend based question. In which of the following arrangements the order is not according to the property indicated? So look at option A. What is it? So this question, right, we have to go through each and every statement, then only we can answer it. What is the first one? Increasing electron gain enthalpy. See, in the 17th group here, right, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. Generally when we go down the group, the electron gain enthalpy will decrease. Okay, which means what? Fluorine electron gain enthalpy is more than chlorine, more than bromine, more than iodine. Okay, but fluorine comes in the second period. So in electron gain enthalpy we have anomaly between the second period and the third period elements. So what is this anomaly? Second period elements, whether it is the fluorine or oxygen, same is the story in the 16th group also. Due to the extremely small size of these elements, and the outermost orbit is what? The second orbit. So already second orbit in case of fluorine, right, second orbit will be having how many electrons? It will be having 7 electrons. Okay, now the incoming electron will be strongly repelled. As a result of it, right, the electron gain enthalpy will be reduced. It will be reduced even below chlorine. So which means the order will be what? Chlorine in fact will be more than fluorine, more than bromine, more than iodine. So which means what? The given order is what? Iodine is less than bromine. You can see iodine is what? Less than bromine, which is less than fluorine, which is less than chlorine. This is correct. And what we are looking for, look at this. No, the order is not according, means we are looking at which order is not matching. Look at it. Option B is what? Lithium less than sodium less than potassium less than rubidium, increasing metallic radius. So look at it. What are these elements? So lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium. Below that we'll have cesium, and below that we'll have francium. As you go down the group, what is going to happen? Because for these metals, right, the radius will be measured in terms of the metallic radius. As you go down the group, what happens? The radius will be increasing. Why? Because we are adding more and more number of shells. So this is also correct. What is option C? Boron less than carbon less than nitrogen less than oxygen, increasing first ionization enthalpy. See, we already talked about it in one of the previous questions, I think. Boron, so they are all coming in the second period, right? Beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, all second period. If you move from left to right, the ionization enthalpy or ionization energy should increase. Okay, but the anomaly will be in terms of nitrogen as well as beryllium also. So here the focus beryllium is anyway not in the comparison. We are comparing only between what? Between boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen. Nitrogen will have the arrangement is what? 1s2, 2s2, 2p3. That is the arrangement of nitrogen. 2p3 structure, half filled p is more stable. So the removal of electron, right, will be difficult relatively. As a result of it, the ionization energy of nitrogen will be more than oxygen. So here, you know what, that the order we will be having is boron less than carbon less than oxygen less than nitrogen. So nitrogen ionization energy will be even more than oxygen because of the half filled p structure. So we are looking for what is the wrong order, right? So here, you know, we are looking for what is the order that is not according to the property. Means this one, the one that you mentioned, that is mentioned in C, right, that is not according to the property. So if you look at, you know, the first ionization energy, means what will be the correct order? It will be boron less than carbon less than oxygen less than nitrogen. This is the anomaly here. Okay, look at option D. Al3 plus is less than Mg2 plus less than Na plus less than F minus, increasing ionic size. So what are all these species? These are all what? Isoelectronic. So we got our answer for this question, but we'll anyway discuss the option D also. What is option D? They are talking in terms of the ionic sizes. What are all these species? These are all isoelectronic species. Check it. What are all these species? These are all what? Isoelectronic species. Isoelectronic species means what? If you look at Al3 plus, aluminum normally 13 electrons. Al3 plus means we remove 2 electrons, means it will become 10. Magnesium 2 plus, magnesium 12 electrons. Removal of 2 electrons means what? 10 electrons. Sodium plus, sodium 11 electrons. Removal of 1 electron means it will become 10. Fluorine minus, normally fluorine is 9 electrons. Adding 1, here we are adding, becomes 10. All these are what? Isoelectronic species. In isoelectronic species, the outer part, we have nucleus inside the atom, and surrounding the nucleus we have electrons. The number of electrons is same everywhere. The difference will be coming in terms of the nuclear charge. For the isoelectronic species, the difference will be coming in terms of the nuclear charge. So wherever the nuclear charge is more, that means what? That particular case, the electrons, including the outermost shell electrons, they will be pulled more strongly by nucleus. So as a result, the radius will be decreasing. If you look at the nuclear power, means what? That is the number of number of protons present in nucleus. Okay, so the ions, they will only have a difference in terms of the number of electrons, but the protons of the ion will be same as the protons of the respective element, because nothing is happening to the nucleus. Aluminum, what is the number of protons that is there? 13. So aluminum 3 plus also will have 13 protons. Magnesium will have 12 protons, nucleus. Sodium will have 11 protons. Fluorine will have 9 protons. So where the nuclear power is highest? Al3 plus case, there the radius will be least. Then Mg2 plus, then Na plus, then F minus. So we can see Al3 plus has got the highest nuclear power, that is why the radius is least. F minus has got the least F minus has got the least nuclear charge. So when the nuclear charge is least, that is when the radius is going to be highest. When we are comparing between the isoelectronic species, I think we have got couple of questions on the isoelectronic species. Even in past years also, if you check it, right, you'll have, I think, at least 2 or 3 times this isoelectronic species based questions have come. That tells the importance of this. Okay. Next, we'll go to the question that is again based on position of an element in the table. Okay, or rather, the count of elements. So look at this, the number of elements present in the fifth period of the periodic table. So when they just say like this, we are referring to what? The modern periodic table, or the long form of the periodic table. So we'll have to answer questions based on that. Okay, so look at it, we have to find what is the number of elements present in the fifth period. See, for answering these kind of questions, like the way we have been doing, right, we can look at the atomic numbers of the inert gas elements. So the first period is what? Only 2 elements. What is it? Hydrogen, helium. So the helium atomic number is what? 2. Then the next one, what is it? Neon atomic number is 10. So the this is the first period. This is the second period, the one that will contain neon. Okay, then comes argon. What is atomic number? 18. So in this period, right, how many elements will be there? 8. That is why 2 plus 8 is what? 10. Then here also we'll have 8 elements, third period. That's why 10 plus 8 is what? 18. Then below argon comes krypton, atomic number 36. This is the fourth period. Okay, so 18, here we'll have 18 elements. 18 plus 18, 36. Then xenon, 54. That is the fifth period. So look at this, 36 plus 18 is what? 54. So that is what we are looking for, right? We are looking for the fifth period. Okay, so fifth period, what is the number of elements that will be there? 18. So maybe then comes the sixth period. So sixth period will be what? After xenon we'll get radon. Radon is what? 86. So here we'll have 54 plus 32. This is actually the longest period. So look at it, the first period is 2, second, so 2, 8, 8, fourth is 18, fifth is 18. Maybe once you practice a little bit, you can even straight away remember this. Sixth is what? 32, and seventh is what? Incomplete. What is seventh? Incomplete. Seventh period is the period where we have incomplete some of the elements are yet to be discovered, and some the elements, so-called discovered elements also, there are questions in terms of their existence in isolation and things like that. Okay, so the question, coming back to the question, right, what is the question they're asking us? The number of elements in the fifth period. What is the number of elements in the fifth period? 18. So the correct answer is option D. Next we'll go to question number 20. Which of the following is correct order of metallic character? So here we are talking about the metallic character of what elements? Silicon, beryllium, magnesium, sodium, and phosphorus. So where these elements belong to, if you look at it, right, so sodium, magnesium, then comes aluminum, silicon, phosphorus, and then sulfur. So all these are what? These are all our third period elements. So in this we are having the sodium, then we have magnesium, then we have of course silicon, then we have phosphorus. Aluminum is not there, sulfur is not there, at least in the comparison. But extra we have one more element, which is beryllium. So first let us talk about this set. So when we move from left to right in any period, right, what is going to happen? Here they are talking in terms of the metallic character. What is going to happen to the metallic character when we move from left to right? The metallic character, what is going to happen? It is going to decrease. Metallic character is going to be decreasing. Means what? In the extreme right, what do we have? We have phosphorus. So phosphorus will be lesser metallic than silicon, which will be lesser metallic than magnesium, which will be lesser metallic than sodium. What is it? Phosphorus will be lesser metallic than silicon, which will be lesser metallic than magnesium, which will be lesser metallic than sodium. Now comes the question of beryllium. Where does beryllium fit? See, where beryllium comes, it comes in the magnesium group. Beryllium comes in the magnesium group, okay. And when you go down a group, what do we see? The metallic nature increases. When we go down a group, the metallic nature will be increasing, isn't it? Which means what? Magnesium will be more metallic than beryllium. Magnesium will be more metallic than beryllium. So if you look at it, right, clearly option 1 is not going to be the correct. Why? Because here we are saying that magnesium is more than sodium. Sodium will have higher metallic nature than magnesium, okay. Then option 3, here what you're saying, beryllium is more metallic than magnesium, okay. In fact, I think there is a typo in this, okay. So here we will not have both beryllium, maybe one of them is silicon, okay. So here what do we see is that the beryllium is having more metallic nature than magnesium. So this is also not correct. Look at option 4. What are we saying? Silicon is more metallic than magnesium. Silicon will be having a lesser metallic nature than magnesium. So this is also not correct. So look at option 2. What is it? Phosphorus less than silicon. Beryllium will have a lesser metallic nature than magnesium. Okay, but since beryllium and silicon, there is no direct correlation, right? We may not be able to clearly tell which is going to be more metallic and which is going to be less metallic. So that is the reason why if you look at these kind of questions, right, they also give some room for the the options also will be given in such a way that we will be able to come with the correct option if we go by our normal analysis, because some things, right, we will not be able to clearly comment. So between silicon and beryllium, which is going to be more metallic, so that point, right, we will not be able to comment unless we have a deeper understanding of the properties of the elements. But here, just based upon the trend in terms of a group or period, right, what we can see is that this is the trend that we are able to see in terms of the periodic trend. And beryllium less than magnesium is another trend we are seeing in terms of the metallic nature across a group. So when we club both of them, right, what is the option that is suiting our purpose? It is what? Phosphorus less than silicon. Beryllium will be also less than magnesium. In fact, we have only one option that is fitting this, okay. Beryllium will be also less than magnesium, which will be less than sodium. Now again I am reiterating here, if you are thinking, how are we able to say that beryllium is having more metallic nature than silicon? We will not be able to directly tell that beryllium will have more metallic nature than silicon like that, okay. We will only be able to tell if you know the thorough properties and all that. But here we are able to give an answer by merging both the trend analysis, because if you look at other options, right, they are not satisfying the trends that we see either across a period or across a group, okay. So that is the reason why we are omitting those options, and option 2 is the one that is matching both the trends, the trend in terms of a group and trend in terms of a period, okay. So the correct answer is what? Option 2. So these kind of questions, when we have elements, like sometimes they can even give questions on comparing radius also. The elements will not, so usually when you have elements in a period, we can answer it. Elements in a group we can answer, but they can pick up elements from different places in the table. Then what we have to do is, certainly some of the elements will be in a period and some of the elements will be in a group. So we have to first conclude on what is the trend in terms of the period analysis, what is the trend in terms of the group analysis. We conclude it, and based on that we can keep checking the options. And typically what happens is, 3 options will not satisfy our analysis on the group or period trend, and only one of them will satisfy, okay. So that is how we'll go about answering these kind of questions, okay. So this is what we have in the second work session. And what you can do is, you can also, along with these 2 work session problems, right, take a look at the past year questions. I think we have around 2 videos or so past year NEET questions, 2 or 3 videos. Maybe you can just check it of the periodic classification element. So if you practice, it means then that will complete the practice part of it, at least for the questions along expected lines, okay.